I'm just so excited to get the chance to chat with you and I want to say this in the most respectful way possible. I am a very, very queer woman. You are a very attractive man. And every video I see you do, especially of you singing,
Oh, oh, that means a lot to me. Thank you.
it really just takes me someplace. It's like, it's very nostalgic. It's a very nostalgic feeling of like this kind of music my dad used to listen to, like this very kind of like jazzy, sensual, like really it's music, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
That's how your music makes me feel. So I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself. So before I even, do you mind introducing yourself, who you are, what you do, your pronouns, and we can just jump right into it.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. That just threw me all off guard. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. My name is CarLarans, and he, him, they pronouns, also known as Father of the House of Noir. I do music. I like to organize events and host things for queer people and Black people and queer Black people. And yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you more because with COVID and everything, I haven't really like met you. We met at that one photo shoot.
Yes, which was so much fun. Like gave me just the life I needed right in the middle of pandemic. And it was like, oh, we were still safe, we were still cute. It was great. Yeah.
Yes, it was so much fun. Exactly, like it was everything. It was but like that wasn't nearly enough time to like I just was drawn to your energy. And so like I'm so excited just to kind of like do this a little bit more formally but informally. And without any further ado, just like since the photo shoot, you participated in Beauty Boys Go Boo Part 6. And I would love to hear more about your character and how you encompass the master ceremonies and who they were and all and just that experience for you.
Yes, an experience it was something that none of us I think have ever done before and was just so incredible. Master ceremonies, because this was my I think fifth Go Boo with Beauty Boys. So watching the evolution, and I've hosted I think a couple of them or maybe all of it. I can't remember now, but so I've acted as the actual master of ceremonies for some of the previous productions. So it's kind of a natural role, I think, for me, because that is also kind of at the heart of my core. What I do is just create space, or what I like to do is make sure that the space is conducive for everyone to thrive and have a good time and all of that. And so working that into this cult concept, which was all the writers, I take no credit for any of that, but channeled my essence, I guess, into the character. And then just warping that with music that I was already kind of creating at the time, which is, another great part of the process, of Beauty Boys is using everyone's already strengths and art to like merge together into this beautiful production. But yeah, that was my experience in 30 seconds or less with that.
Beautiful. It was so succinct, well done. And yeah, it just seemed like your character really fit who you like your energy of who you are. And just like I imagine when you walk into a room, people notice. That's how I like that's the energy you exude,
Oh, well, thank
right?
you.
And it was like
Yeah.
very much the master of ceremonies as well. When the master of ceremonies walked into a room, they noticed. And that it was, I think, so well fitted for you and that character. And that was that your first film? Are you going to be adding actor in addition to like singer and MC to your creative resume?
Wow. It's gone on the resume for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I've had a love hate relationship with acting. Actually, there's been no love. I studied musical theater in college, and um, I struggled a lot with acting. And looking back on it now, I did 2 years and I was like, let me change. So I didn't complete that. But part of it was acting was so hard for me because I had not come to terms with any of my own traumas or anything, surrounding my own stuff back in Indiana before I had moved to Seattle and really like opened up. So And my professors, I think, knew that and they kept pushing and it never came out. So I just like, I don't know. I have been scared to kind of act ever since because I never got any positive reinforcement when I did try because I just wasn't ready to like let myself go into the acting process, seriously. So this was a good step in that direction, because it was very much like kind of my own personality woven into a character, which was good. But yeah, something I would love to get into more. I'm a very just trauma drama person to begin with. So I'm like, yeah, I love acting. I want to do more.
Well, I'm glad that hopefully like this was a more positive experience for you to like work through some of that. And I'm sorry that was your experience because it seemed like you were a natural and I hope you do more of it. In addition to like your singing career. And you've released like these really sultry songs like Push, Hold On, Dark Side. They all have this really good, like good feeling. Like they feel good. Like I'm not a music person and very rarely does music it's hard for me to like verbally describe how music makes me feel, but I find it to be troublesome to find the right words to really describe how like your music makes me feel. And so I'd love just to hear like your take on those songs and like your inspiration behind them and your music.
It's interesting to hear to say that it's hard to say how it makes you feel, but it makes you feel, which I think at the end of the day is just all that I really want, or that I think is cool about my music is when people feel something from it. Because I definitely feel something when I create it, and it's all like it's all emotionally driven. Like everything I do is all emotional driven, which is like it's hard and a blessing, and it's like a constant balance. But yeah, they're all different experiences. Like I can tell you about who or what inspired each different song, but I don't want to put anyone on blast. But read my memoir book that's going to be coming out. No, I'm kidding.
What?
When I decide to write it, I'm gonna release. No, but it's all it's all based on kind of real shit, if you will. So um yeah, it if it makes you feel something, it's definitely because I felt something when I wrote it. You can kind of take each one as it is in its own thing. But um yeah, that's kind of the only way that I know how to create, really, is it has to come organically.
Right. And let me be clear, the way it makes me feel, it's a very positive feeling. Let me just make it's a very positive feeling. It's
Yeah.
just like it's so sultry. It's like I feel like it's like smooth like butter like melting like that like on my body like just something very like just like sensual, which see even saying that out loud doesn't feel like I'm doing it justice. I'm just sounding weird. So like
No, not at all. That's definitely
which is why
a
I did
vibe.
which is why I didn't want to go into it, but it's a good feeling and I appreciate it because you're sharing something very intimate with of yourself through your music, and those songs are very intimate. I
Mhm.
mean, that's how they sound. They sound intimate, they feel intimate. I mean, it's a good feeling, but what it's like to just share that and I appreciate you just sharing that you won't share the inspiration behind that because you won't shed like spill that tea and I really respect that.
Yeah.
What I do
Most of them are, they're not all necessarily bad. I mean, Hold On is really just about the quarantine and, kind of finding solace in taking a break and chilling out, because that's what I felt, because my life was so hectic before quarantine and shows and all of this stuff. And so like that was literally like a magical reset button from Mother Nature for me. For everyone's experience is a little different, but there was that, and Push was, right around the Black Lives Matter movement when it was picking up steam in Capitol Hill and starting to die down, and people getting social justice fatigue and really having to like continue that fight in other ways. And it kind of it's all over the place. And yeah, not every song necessarily may inspire joy or like something warm. That's tend to be like the most thing that I do, just because that's how I feel most of the time. But there are definitely some songs, especially some future things coming out, that are a little deal with the other side of things, because that's kind of how my last year's been. So you'll hear it coming up.
Well, I'm really excited because I've actually been listening to your music and I was listening to while I was doing my makeup today, getting ready for our interview and our
Right.
little
The
conversation.
faith is just beat, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, and I was actually thinking and asking because I'm not a music person, and so please forgive me. But can you kind of tell me about that organic development that you've had since dropping Black Excellence in 2017? Because you've been producing music like beyond just like this last year. Because these songs, the more recent songs that have come out, are incredible. But like you've been doing this for a minute, and so how has your music and your creativity just like developed over that time?
Yeah, it's interesting to think of, because they say it takes 10 years for an overnight success. And it's like, well, I don't think I'm necessarily successful. I am in some ways, but not to my goals, because they're always higher. But it's interesting seeing my growth, because I can see that just as an artist, and the more you do the work, the more you define your process, and the more you define as a person. So like when I look back on my own music career, it's really inspiring to myself, just because where I was then and what I wanted to say, which part of it was not knowing what I wanted to say in the beginning. It's just making music just to make music, which is fun. But then thinking about the world, and I'm a big Michael Jackson fan, and how he used his music to speak about social justice issues, and like Lady Gaga, these people who like really like use their voices and not just make music to make music. And so then that kind of inspired, a change in my artistic development, and just, yeah, naturally working, doing my own production and all that stuff. But like over the years, it gets naturally gets more defined and all of that. And so, yeah, now I just feel like I have a clearer, you're always creating the path, but I definitely feel like I'm on a path now that I have created just from the past 5 years of work. So yeah, it's been fun.
Wow, what a journey. And you mentioned this earlier. You moved here from Indiana.
Woo! Yes, child. The cornbread fed
Well,
hills,
yeah,
Indiana.
can we talk about that? Because that's quite the move. When did you move here from Indiana? Like from Indiana to Seattle? What part of Indiana to Seattle? The Midwest to Seattle? And like, how did that impact like your artistry?
Yeah, that's for the hour-long 60 minutes interview. We'll really unpack. But I mean, it's interesting to think about now, but um, that transition is huge. And um, a lot of people that see me now, and I was talking about this with a friend, they only know me as now, but they don't know where I came from. It's just you never know anyone's story. But just coming to terms with my Blackness and queerness and all of that was a journey. Indiana, and again, everyone's experience is different. I'm from Southern Indiana, which is the tri-state. It's where Illinois and Indiana and Kentucky all meet, on the Ohio River. And it's still fairly conservative. It's usually a red, it goes back and forth between a red and blue state, but its history is mostly red. And my hometown of Evansville was on Trump's rally campaign, like my actual hometown. And, it's kind of like ground zero for a lot of that fan base and fan base, like it's crazy. But yeah, so coming from that area was hard. And I always stood out. I found my place in theater because I was okay to be myself, and it was more accepted. And I found my family there in Indiana, which held me down, all my best friends. And without like that core, it would have been a lot harder. But when I came to Seattle is when I opened up, to everything. I met Jade Dynasty, or Pangea, as she's known by now, and my first house mother, who really introduced me to everything that I now know as queer culture. And in that, meeting fellow Black queers, who share my experience, really just opened my eyes to what community actually was. I didn't know that it literally existed. I mean, all of my friends back home were mostly white and 90% straight. And it was just me. And I was okay being myself. I was okay being the only one. And there's just something about that confidence in being the only one, but then it's different when you find your community and like you just know that there's other people there. It just changes a lot. And so that's why I ride so hard, I think, for community and for everyone, is because I know what it's like to not have that, and how valuable it is and how important it is, and to lift each other up. And who knows, but who else back home, family members of mine who may look at me and be like, hey, it's okay to, I'm kind of the first one of the family to like, you know, be openly queer and all of this stuff. And, never know who's really watching. So just try and live authentically with that. But that naturally just changed my whole concept of creativity and what I create and why. That changes. Whew, is a big one.
Wow. I mean, I can only imagine, and something you said, it sounds like community, and coming to Seattle and joining community really positively influence your artistry.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It made me who I am. Like I was, did an oracle reading earlier, and that person was always inside, but it really made it okay, those layers to just fall away and be able to be my authentic self and be proud of that person. Um, which, is just, yeah, again, interesting because I've always been very confident, I guess you could say, or outgoing and extroverted, but that doesn't necessarily always mean that you love yourself.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
that's oh,
funny.
that's the truth. I can relate to that because I'm also very extroverted, but I've definitely not always been the most confident.
Mhm.
I know they're two very different things and they can get misconstrued very easily. And especially, you mentioned about being the only one, like, back in Indiana. And I feel like when you're the only one, you're kind of forced to either be like an extreme introvert or an extreme extrovert. You're not forced to be
Mhm.
confident.
Yeah.
You're,
Yep.
you're not taught to love yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of, it's a defense mechanism. I think, people of color just have a stronger sense of, survival and being able to do that. But especially in Indiana, like I guess I built up those walls to protect myself, and I am confident, I am this and fun and so that people would like me, which kind of actually is who I am. But a lot of it, was built too. So it's, yeah, the real me being able to shine in the back 5 years of my life. So, and I'm 31 years old. So, you know, 25 years of living in an environment where you feel like you're just like condensed can be a lot to break through.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And the fact that you were able to break through and you came here and you found the community that you found is so important. And I'm just so happy that you're with us today, and you've had the journey you've had. And talking about community, like, I want to kind of go into, you mentioned the Royal House of Noir,
There you go. Hey.
and you're the father, is what you
Yeah.
mentioned.
All that.
Can you tell us more about your house and like how it's organized? Mentioned the father, and I've had, to give you some like background, I've had Tina Shea on here, I've had Oliver and Chip or Luke. I've had other members of the ballroom scene from other houses on here as well, and so I love getting everyone's take on the ballroom scene in the Seattle area, and,
Yeah.
their specific house. So it's kind of a two-part question.
Yes. Ballroom. Where to even begin? So, yeah, had I been living in New York City and growing up, then instead of that, ballroom may have been a place where I would have found solace and been able to grow creatively, because that's kind of like another scene where you're able to do that. And which, again, when I moved to Seattle, Jade was the first one to introduce me to ballroom, which I had never heard about. I didn't know what voguing was or what there was no Pose or Legendary or any of that, when I was growing up. And so learning about that whole scene also just was a huge eye-opening experience for me. And so yeah, we were in the House of Luna, me and myself, Luke and Chip and Jade and others. And then once that kind of um, once that disbanded, then the House of Noir was founded, which noir is just French for black. And so we wanted to focus on being black and in Seattle and building a space for that specific community here, especially queer, black, trans individuals. Um, so yeah, that's how House of Noir started, and me being the father and Lucci, Chip, and Luke are the mothers. Every house is so different, and I thought that was a very interesting question because you asked how we're different from other houses, and I think every house in Seattle is so different, and that's why our scene is so beautiful here. We do a lot of organizing. Several of our members work in community organizations that are giving resources to individuals in the city, working on the streets, if you will. And so, that's a huge aspect of what we do, and throwing events and for people to come together. There's a lot of houses that, will come to the balls and they will show you a good time. They're coming for trophies, and then they're their own family community, and they take care of each other, which is the best part. And I think we saw a lot of that from last year, is that the houses here are not just about walking balls and winning trophies, but we're like family units because we're out here taking care of each other during the pandemic and during all of that. So the ballroom scene's a really beautiful community here that's definitely growing too. So big things are happening.
You've alluded to a lot of like growth and future projects. And so I want to ask, like, what are you most excited about, like, that you're focused on coming into 2020? Because you've talked about stuff with ballroom, with your music, some more songs we're hopefully going to be getting this year. What are you working on? What are you most excited about? Like, what's happening?
What's happening? All kinds of stuff's happening. This year's probably focused more on my individual music. I'm doing a lot of recording, writing. My process is so all over the place that it's like, oh, I'm working on an album 1 minute, then it's just going to be a small 5-song thing that turns into a 15-song album. And, so trying to narrow down my direction is just, yeah. So, but the fun things that I'm just writing a lot, recording stuff, working on different creative projects. So that'll be more the CarLarans thing, I think, this year. And House of Noir, we are also planning a few events. There may or may not be a grand ball happening this year. So more to come on that. But yeah, we want to do something on a larger scale. So we have to wait for the timing to be right for COVID. So it's hard to plan anything right now, but we would love for it to happen this year. So we'll see. I don't want to spill too many details. But yeah, so things are happening. Also just supporting other people in the house and making time for that. So I know Randy Ford is also releasing an album this year, so we'll be supporting her, and she's doing a lot of visual stuff. Lucci has their monthly show Wednesday that's happening again. So between my own things and House Noir and everyone's individual projects, it keeps us busy. So yeah, I'm just excited that the balls seem to be rolling again for just everything and creativity. So what a time to be alive.
Right? I agree. I think also we all need this like event that you're talking about, with the Royal House of Noir.
And it's like new and then the letter R, noir.
House of Noir. I also like French. I'm like, it's so sexy too, the House of Noir.
It's a hard word to say. I don't know why we chose it.
It's very
Well,
sexy. I love it. I do. And I oh my god, I love my train of thought. I appreciate you sharing all of like these little like tidbits. And like I was saying, I think we all also need like an event like that. Like we all need to come together as community and we all need to like join together. And it's like through like events like that that we get to just celebrate
Mhm.
together, community, love. And I want to kind of hear your take on Seattle Pride postponing the Pride Parade in June. Like we're not going to be doing another virtual Pride in June. I don't know if you've heard.
And you just broke the news for me. Well, I want to say I was pretty confident we're not going to have 100,000 people in any one place this year at all. So with that, it's like, well, with Pride, it's either all or not, you know. So I kind of figured it wasn't going to happen, but yeah, which I was a part of virtual Pride last year, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's definitely different, and it's not the same thing. It's different. So yeah, I agree. We do need something where we can come together and be in the same room, and I think that that's gonna happen this year. I really do.
Hopefully with like safety precautions, especially maybe in the summertime once more vaccines have been out and we can be
Outside.
outside and we can be socially distant. And most people are smart enough to wear a mask, and now we're double masking, which is so fabulous. So I hopefully, everyone just keeps on this track. Maybe by the end of summer we'll be able to have that amazing event that y'all are possibly talking about, that you're slightly alluding to, and we can all celebrate together. And I just think I wanted to say, I didn't say this before, but I think it's also so special that your house is it's like all Black queer folk, right?
Yeah, yeah, all
That's
black.
dope. That's so amazing. That's like
Yeah.
so special. And I think that's what like is such a gift to Seattle. So thank you for being the father and for helping organize that, because I know that kind of labor, like there's no price to that type of labor, but it's labor nonetheless. And it is all types of labor. It's emotional, it's mental, it's physical. And so I just want to say thank you, because we all appreciate it and none of us say it enough.
Ah, thank you. Well, no, and thank you for this and for telling our stories and bringing people together. And you know, I I love Queers Converse. It's just it's so perfect because we're all doing such beautiful things, and to get to know each other on a deeper scale, and to be able to watch and see people that we all are adjacent to, even, or that we might know, and being able to really see more of their stories. It's like really beautiful and inspiring. And like, again, community in general is just something I value so much, that it's thank you for also doing this work.
Thank you. And I mean, the whole point I did of me starting this was just like you said, tell other people's stories and to talk about, identities and representations that we like. When I'm the same age as you, I'm 31, things that we didn't see in the media growing up. Like I didn't see, for myself, I didn't see queer, femme, Latina women in media, like professional. I never saw that
Mhm.
growing up.
Or what you did see was not the real true reality of the diverseness of that community.
That, exactly. Puerto Rican is not even, I think, ever properly like represented. And I mean, and that's just like a fragment. So not even to go into all of that.
Right.
But
Exactly.
for this platform, when you can just, record a video, edit it, and upload it, and then it's like anyone can find this, and hopefully it's a story that they identify with, that they resonate with, that inspires them. And to get into like the core of it, like your various identities, like your identities as a Black queer person who is the father of this amazing ballroom house, who's a singer, who's an MC, who's an artist, a creative. Like how you identify, how do those identities intersect and complement each other?
Mm, yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a hard question because I feel like I focus so much on how they clash, because there's a lot of collision, especially in the Black and queer culture. And so, yeah, I think I'm very much still learning. I'm still meeting people every day and learning about different experiences and finding how similar our upbringings and things are, especially people our age, and how we're all just learning how to break out of that, and reinforce things and go back and trying to especially, Black people and immigrants and people who aren't necessarily indigenous to the US, but trying to reclaim our heritage and, all of those different things. And I think that the intersectionality of race and gender and sexual identity, they're all separate, but it's the mix of them that really is like what's interesting to find out about people in our culture, because everyone again is on this crazy spectrum. But I think again, focusing kind of on the dissonance is where I live, because also I think it's good to like break down that, like, why does that exist and let's get rid of it type situation. Because yeah, it's rough out here still for a lot of people, again in Indiana and in other places of the world. We're in our bubble here in Seattle, and I think it's a lot of times, if you're born here, if you've been here a while, you forget that there are places where you can't hold hands in public. It's not physically safe. Like I used to get egged on the street just for like wearing a crop top, or like, blatant in your face, racism like that and bigotry like that still exists, like here in this country, and happens. And it's interesting in our bubble here, I think, to really realize like that's where I came from. That's where a lot of people here came from or escaped from, and a lot of people are still there living that life. And like we just got to keep on taking care of each other and like helping us find each other, which is exactly what I think this show is exactly about, so bravo to you.
You're too kind and you're so sweet. And you bring up a really great point, because I'm a Seattle native. I was born and raised in Renton. And but it was 10 years ago. I wasn't comfortable walking with my partner hand in hand in downtown Seattle. Like 10 years ago, I did not feel safe because we got verbally harassed as two femme identifying women holding hands. And that's nothing comparison to Indiana, like nothing. We very much live in a bubble here where we think things are okay, but no, there's a lot of racism, there's a lot of misogyny, there's a lot of shit in Seattle. And we're still very protected in comparison to like the Midwest, where I can't even imagine you were egged for wearing a crop top. Let's just let that sink in for a moment. That's awful. I'm so sorry that you went through that.
It is, and I don't know. I hate to laugh to trivialize it, but the thought of it is so absurd. Like for literally what someone's wearing and how they express themselves. Like no, you don't know anything about it. It's just that mentality still exists is the absurd part of it. But yeah, you're right. We're not. A lot of people get fooled into thinking we're a lot further along than we really
Yeah.
are.
And that's to your point, exactly what I was going to say is I think people would be really shocked to hear that, because people live in this narrative that we're it's nothing like back in the 60s. At least it's not like then.
Yeah. Is it really that different?
But it's not good, and either way it's not good enough. Like in the end, like the way I get onto like I try to get to people to get to a common ground, because that's like what I do sometimes in my facilitation game, is like it's not good enough regardless of like the distance we've come, whatever distance, because no one can really agree on the distance we've come, and that's where a lot of people get caught up. It's not good enough. The fact that
Right.
you've still gone through that, the fact that anyone still had gone through and experienced that type of hatred just for looking that fine is not okay.
It's a problem.
It's a problem, and it's hatred, and the root of hatred, it needs to be taken care of, because we're 31, right? And I don't want my nephews who are like 16 and 12,
Mhm.
to like have to see and deal with that type of hatred as they get older. And I don't want their kids to have to see and deal with that kind of hatred as they grow older. And I think you coming on here and sharing your story and just sharing like who you are and a little insight, a little peek into your creative brain and your artistry and your music and your beauty is such a gift that I hope that whoever watches this really takes something beautiful away from it. And if they do, feel free to comment down below. Let me get back into that engagement.
Hey.
I'm still getting used to this whole like YouTube podcast game, but like comment, let us know what you think. Like I'm just so grateful to have you on here. So thank you.
Thank you, yeah, for having me. I love this. Let's continue this conversation. Let's. I'm just all about talking and community and getting together. I know we'll be working together like soon again. So I'm just excited for everything that's happening. We're doing it.
Me too. And so, and that's the whole thing that Queers Converse is doing. And so hopefully that we'll be conversing with you soon. All of CarLarans' socials will be linked down below. So follow CarLarans on Instagram, on the Facebook. You have a website. What's your website?
CarLarans.com.
Yes. Where can they find your music? The best place to listen to your music. I listen to it on Spotify, but
Yeah, you can literally Google me, like literally, because I think I'm the only CarLarans in existence. But yeah, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play. Just search my name, CarLarans, and yeah, I'll be there.
Please go follow, give CarLarans some love. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of yourself today, and I can't wait to work with you again. And if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, or feelings, feel free to email us at queersconverse@gmail.com. Thank you again. Have a lovely, beautiful day. I so appreciate you.
Yes, you too. All right. Talk to you soon.